Zelanthanos, ruler of empires, commander of the storm and the calm, enforcer of the third mandate of heavens, and bearer of countless other illustrious titles, deemed it fitting that Earth should become the next gem in his collection. The war fleet assembled was a spectacle of overwhelming might. Glorious icons adorned ancient parade ships that hadn't seen battle in millennia. None would dare resist. None but the humans. The first skirmish, at least between humanity and the Empire, occurred on the Fringe, a dusty mining colony torn apart by two rival corporations waging war against each other. They had turned their drills and mining explosives into weapons of destruction. There's an old human saying, me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, me, my brother and my cousin against the world. It turns out, those lines of unity extend deeper than any outsider could fathom. For a slaver like Zelanthanos, provoking humanity was a mistake of cosmic proportions. What had been internal strife and squabbling turned outward with the force of a supernova. The sheer fury of united human resistance burned so bright that even the Empire's most seasoned tacticians likened it to the birth of a star. There were many heroes in those battles, legends forged in the fires of desperation and defiance, but this is not their story. Humanity's resistance shattered the Empire, burning it from the inside out. Slave wars rose in rebellion, their chains broken by human hands, but the price was steep. Planets were poisoned, atmospheres scorched, and billions displaced. We, the Karapor, were among the refugees. We came to Earth out of desperation, seeking sanctuary in the same species that had destroyed our masters. Most of us didn't know what to expect. Earth was no paradise. Its skies were grey, its cities crowded, its people loud and brash, and not all of them were kind. The majority, I'll admit, were better than we had any right to hope for. They offered us places to live, food to eat, and work to do. Some of them even welcomed us with open arms. This is the story of the day that everything came together. I shuffled down the crowded street, the air thick with smells I couldn't name. Charcoal smoke, tangy sauces, and something fried. Humans bustled between restaurants and bars, their voices blending into a hum that buzzed in my sensory tendrils. I stayed to the edge of the flow, keeping my tentacles close to avoid jostling their strange, flailing limbs. Then I saw the jugglers in bright costumes, tossing flaming torches into the air. The fire spun in dazzling arcs, dangerously close to their faces, only for them to catch each torch as if it were no more dangerous than a piece of fruit. I froze, torn between horror and fascination. One of the jugglers, a young human with a shock of red hair, took the fire to her mouth and, impossible, swallowed it whole. The flames vanished as it devoured, leaving only a thin trail of smoke curling from her lips. I recoiled, my eye stalks withdrawing involuntarily. Was she immune to fire? Had she been burned? The sheer audacity of it made my tendrils quiver. She noticed me watching and grinned, wiping her hands on her colourful trousers. "What do you think, friend?" "It was..." I searched for the word. "Terrifying. And delightful." She laughed. "Good. Means I'm doing it right." Her eyes lingered on me for a moment longer, her grin faltering just slightly. "You're one of the Karapor, right? I've never met one before." "Yes," I replied. Her openness surprised me. Humans rarely spoke to me unless necessary. "You're a bit scary, you know," she said, her tone casual but honest. "All those..." She made a vague gesture at her own limbs, mimicking my tentacles. "But I like you. Glad we met." Before I could respond, she turned back to her performance, throwing the torches higher than before. I stayed a moment longer, marveling at her confidence and wondering what it would feel like to be welcomed with such ease. It even started to rain. For a bit, I believed that everything would be alright, but not everyone was so kind. It started with one drunk man, his foul, toxic breath suffocating me as he angrily brought his face close to mine. He blamed me for the rain, said our kind loves it. He wasn't wrong about that, but then he said we'd taken over their government and were making it rain. I can barely afford the water to grow my lettuce. At this point, I was mostly confused. I'd heard drunk humans could get pretty weird. I tried to ignore him. He soon got company. They needed no theories, just words. Snail was one of the nicer ones. The stress and the rain made me leave a glistening trail, which only made things worse. They kept going, hissing and jeering until I reached home. But my misfortune was living above the bar they frequented. Even through the floorboards I could hear their voices, sharp and slurred. I didn't trust them. Bastards, the lot of them. I was scared, and hated that fear. Sometimes I wondered if it wasn't better as a slave. The bean-eaten part convinced me life here wasn't so bad after all. Then the voices in the bar stopped, and a faint yelling from outside drifted through the air. Fire! The men stormed outside, while I opened my window to see what happened. I started to cough, the smoke from the inferno stinging my air sacs. Later, I learned that a fire had started in the restaurant across the street. Grease trapped in the air ducts had turned the blaze into an inferno. Above it, cramped apartments burned, the smoke pouring out like chimneys. One single Karapur child, an eggling, stood screaming at a window. One of our own, trapped. I froze, helpless, watching the flames crawl closer. It would take me minutes to reach the eggling, time it did not have. The humans didn't freeze. The same bastards who spent the night mocking us grabbed a ladder from the alley and ran toward the fire. They didn't hesitate. They just acted. I watched as they climbed, flames licking at their clothes. One of them smashed the window, reaching in with scarred hands to pull the eggling out. Another shielded it with his body as they climbed back down, their faces streaked with soot and sweat. When they handed the eggling to its mother, the humans didn't stay to be thanked. They went back to their bar, laughing and drinking like nothing had happened. I still think they're bastards, but even their bastards are heroes.